On the edge of a dying planet, where the ground cracked like old skin and the air smelled of dust and smoke, walked a woman and alien mother. Her body was thin, her face pale, and her steps weak. She carried a small child pressed tightly against her chest. The child was too young to understand hunger, yet his eyes cried silently, searching for food that did not exist. This alien mother once belonged to a proud people. They lived in green valleys beside rivers that sang, under skies filled with bright stars. But those days were gone. War had come. Raiders had burned the fields. The rivers had dried into dust. What was left behind was only ruin. For many nights she had given her child every crumb she could find. She herself had not eaten in days. Her body trembled, but she forced herself to walk. She whispered softly to her son, "You will live, even if I cannot." Her heart carried only one purpose, to save him. But how? No food, no family, no safe place. She had heard stories in the camps, stories about strange creatures called humans. They came from the stars. They traded, they bought. They took, sometimes cruel, sometimes kind. Nobody knew. In her darkest moment, the mother made the most painful choice of her life. She would sell herself, not her body, not her pride. She would sell her freedom. If she gave herself away, maybe, just maybe, her child would eat and survive. Another day, that night, the mother knelt beside her son. She stroked his hair, though her hands shook from weakness. "Forgive me," she whispered. "I will do anything for you. Even this." The child looked at her with innocent eyes. He did not understand the words, but he understood her tears. Far away, the sky burned with fire. A ship descended. The ground shook as metal legs struck the soil. The alien mother shielded her child and stared upward. The ship was massive, shining with lights her people had never built. This was not a machine of her world. This was human. The door opened with a hiss. Out stepped a man. His figure was tall, covered in armor that looked both heavy and strong. His eyes scanned the ruined land before falling upon her. For a moment, the mother's heart froze. Was this the end? Would he take her child? Would he kill them both? The man walked closer. His shadow stretched long in the dying light of the planet's sun. The mother gripped her child tightly, ready to beg, ready to fight, ready to do whatever she must. I am for sale," she whispered in a broken voice. Her words trembled, but they carried truth. "Take me. Just feed him, please." The man stopped. His eyes, cold and sharp, studied her. She felt small, like prey before a hunter. The silence was endless. The child whimpered in her arms. Then something strange happened. The man reached into his pack. He pulled out food wrapped in clean paper. Not stale, not rotten. He placed it on the ground before her. Slowly, carefully, he pushed it closer. The mother's eyes widened. Her body shook as her child reached for the food. But she held him back, afraid of poison, of trickery. The man said nothing. He simply nodded once, as if to say, "Eat." The child took the first bite. His small face lit up with joy. For the first time in many days, he smiled. The mother's eyes filled with tears. Still, fear burned inside her. Why? Why would a human give food without demand? She had offered herself her freedom, but he had not taken her yet. What kind of game was this? She studied his face. He was not smiling. He did not look cruel. He looked curious, as if she were not a slave to buy, but a puzzle to understand. The mother wanted to trust him, but her world had taught her that trust was dangerous. Trust could kill. She told herself, "This is only the beginning." He will show his true face soon. All humans do, but as the sun died behind the mountains, and the stars rose above the broken land, she could not stop her heart from trembling. She had expected chains. She had expected pain. Instead, she had found something far more dangerous. Than cruelty, she had found kindness, and kindness was a weapon sharper than any blade. Because it gave hope, the human walked closer, boots pressing into the cracked earth. Dust rose around him with every step. The alien mother held her child tight, her breath quick and shallow. She had already surrendered her fate. But what kind of man was this? He looked different from what she had imagined. His armor was not decorated with cruel spikes or chains. His helmet was tucked under his arm, revealing a face scarred not by vanity, but by battles long past. His eyes were sharp, but behind the sharpness there was something else. A softness she could not name. The child munched on the food he had given, crumbs sticking to his small lips. The human watched quietly, without moving, as if the sight of a child eating brought him more satisfaction than words could explain. Finally, he spoke. His voice was deep, calm, carrying no threat. "You offered yourself, but I did not come to take a slave." The alien mother flinched. She didn't believe him. No human came to a broken planet for mercy. There was always a price. Always. "You bought me," she said coldly, her voice shaking. "Then use me? That is the deal." The man tilted his head, studying her as though she were speaking madness. "No, I gave food. That is all." Her heart pounded. Was this a trick? No chains, no commands, no anger. Just food. She had never known kindness without cost. It frightened her more than cruelty. He turned away, walking back to his ship. For a moment, she thought he would leave her behind. Panic gripped her chest. Her child needed more food. She needed a way to survive. "Wait," she cried out, her voice breaking through the silence. The man stopped. He did not look back immediately. Only after a pause did he turn, his face unreadable. "Why?" she demanded. "Why help us?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he crouched down to the child's level. His large hands stayed gentle, resting on his knees, keeping his distance. Because no child should starve, he finally said, "Not human, not alien. No one." The mother's throat tightened. The words pierced through her walls like arrows. Still, she did not trust them. Words could be lies. The man stood again. He gestured to his ship. "Come, there is shelter inside. Food, water." Her instinct screamed danger. Shelter inside meant traps, meant control. Yet her child looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes. His tiny fingers tugged at her robe as if begging. He wanted to go. He wanted life. Slowly, hesitantly, she followed. The ship was unlike anything she had ever seen. Bright lights hummed softly. The air smelled clean, not poisoned by dust. Strange machines blinked with color, like stars trapped in boxes. The mother clutched her child tighter, every muscle tense. The human moved calmly, opening small containers. He placed fruits, bread, and water on a table. He did not eat first. He pushed everything toward her. The child rushed forward, laughing for the first time in weeks. The sound echoed strangely in the cold metal room. The mother stared at the man, her lips trembling. "Why don't you eat?" she asked quietly. He shrugged. "I already have enough. You don't." Her suspicion only deepened. In her world, kindness was rare. Those who offered gifts usually wanted control. She wondered if this man wanted her loyalty, her body, or something darker. That night, as her child slept in warmth for the first time in months, the alien mother lay awake. Okay. The human sat at the far end of the room, repairing a broken weapon. He said nothing, asked nothing of her. She turned the questions over and over in her mind. Who was he? Why her? Why not chains? Why not orders? What did he really want? When she closed her eyes, she remembered his words. No child should starve. It was too simple, too pure. And that made it dangerous. Because deep in her heart, something began to stir, something she had buried. Long ago hope, but hope was a cruel thing. The alien mother whispered to herself in the dark, "He will betray us." He must. Humans always do. Yet when dawn came, and she saw her child eating with joy, when she saw the man watching silently with the faintest trace of a smile, she began to wonder if this human was different, and wondering was even more dangerous than fear. The alien mother woke to the sound of humming machines. For a moment, she thought it was a dream. No smoke, no cries, no gunfire, no the steady hum of the human ship. Her child slept beside her, belly full, face peaceful. It had been so. Long since she had seen him like this. But peace was dangerous. Peace could be broken. She sat up, eyes searching the room. The human was there, on the far side, working on some strange device. Sparks of light jumped as his hands moved quickly. With tools, he didn't notice her staring. Or maybe he did, but chose to ignore it. The mother's first thought was escape. She was not chained, not locked inside. The door was only a few steps away. She could run. She could carry her child and vanish into the dust of her world. But run where? The planet was dead. Raiders prowled the ruins. Hunger would return. Freedom meant death. Her eyes went back to the man. He was the buyer. Or at least he should have been. Yet he had not taken her, had not demanded service, had not hurt her. Instead, he fed her child. Instead, he gave them warmth, kindness. Again, it was almost more terrifying than cruelty. Cruelty she understood. Kindness had no pattern. No reason the child stirred. Waking, his small hands rubbed his eyes, and when he saw the human, he smiled. The sound of his giggles filled the ship like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The mother's chest tightened. The child crawled toward the human, fearless. Before she could stop him, the little one tugged at the man's arm. The human looked down, blinking as though unsure what to do. Slowly, carefully, he picked the child. Up. The mother rose to her feet instantly. "Put him down," she snapped. The human obeyed without argument. He set the boy gently on the table, where food still waited. The child laughed again and reached for fruit, happy and unafraid. The mother's heart pounded. She had seen men before, men who smiled while hiding knives, men who promised safety before selling flesh. Could this human be the same? Or was he something else entirely? That night, while the child slept once more, she sat across from the human. The silence between them was thick, heavy with suspicion. Finally, she broke it. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "Why feed us? Why shelter us?" The man looked up from cleaning his weapon. His eyes met hers, calm and steady. "Because you needed it." "That is not an answer," she whispered. He set the weapon down. "Maybe not. But it is the truth." Her fists clenched. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to rest, to let go of fear, to trust. But trust was a luxury her world had burned away long ago. She remembered her people's downfall. Traitors who came with gifts, then brought war. Leaders who promised safety, then sold them to raiders. Even family who turned against each other when hunger grew too sharp. Trust had killed them all, and yet her child trusted. Without hesitation, without fear. He laughed in the man's arms, ate the man's food, and slept under the man's roof. Could a child be wiser than his mother? Or was he simply too innocent to see the danger? One evening, she crept from her bed and listened. The human spoke into a small device, his voice low but clear. She expected to hear her name, her child's name, plans to sell them or trade them. But what she heard was different. He said, 2 survivors found. 1 adult, 1 child. Both weak, both in need. I will not hand them over. They stay with me. Her heart stopped. He will not hand us over. The words cut through her doubt like a blade. Through rope, but still, she could not decide. Was he protecting her? Or was he keeping her for himself? When he returned to the room, he noticed her watching. For the first time, he smiled faintly. Not cruel, not mocking, just human. She quickly turned away, hiding the storm in her eyes. Trust, the word echoed. In her mind, it was dangerous. It was fragile. But for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she could risk it, because kindness repeated again and again was harder to deny. The alien mother lay beside her child and whispered to herself, "If he is lying, we are doomed. But if he is not," our voice trailed off, unfinished dot in her heart. Fear still ruled. But something else was growing, stronger each day, fed by food, warmth, and gentle silence. Hope, and hope was the first step toward trust. Days passed, but the alien mother still counted each one carefully, as if waiting for the trap to finally close. Yet no trap came. The human never raised his hand against her. He never shouted, never demanded. Instead, he moved through his ship with calm, steady purpose, fixing machines, cleaning weapons, studying maps of stars. And always, he left food for her and the child before eating himself. At first, she refused to touch the meals. She gave everything to her boy. But one morning, when her body nearly collapsed from weakness, the human slid a piece of fruit across the table and spoke simply, "Eat. Your child needs a strong mother." She hesitated, staring at the fruit as if it might bite back, but his eyes, they carried no trickery. At last, she lifted it to her lips. The taste burst across her tongues, fresh, alive. She had forgotten what real food felt like. The child clapped his hands, laughing to see his mother eat. The sound made her cheeks burn. She had not laughed herself in months. That night, she heard the child giggle again, this time at the human. The man was showing him something, a small glowing sphere. When the child touched it, the light shifted color from blue to red to green. His eyes widened in wonder. The alien mother stood at a distance, frozen. Her people used to tell stories of humans' merciless conquerors, heartless traitors. But this man was sitting cross-legged on the floor, letting her child play with human technology as if it were a simple toy. Slowly, she approached. The man looked up, his face unreadable. But then, with a small nod, he held out the glowing sphere. To her, she hesitated. Taking it meant crossing a line. But her child tugged at her hand, urging her. With shaking fingers, she touched the sphere. It warmed beneath her skin, glowing softly. For a moment, she forgot her fear. For a moment, she felt wonder too. The days turned into weeks. The mother began to learn small human words. The man would point at things, water, bread, star, and she repeated them slowly, clumsily. He never mocked her when she failed. He only nodded, patient as stone. In return, she taught him words from her own tongue. He struggled, his voice too rough for the delicate sounds. But when he managed to speak a phrase correctly, her child would cheer. And she would feel a strange warmth rise inside her. Trust was still fragile, like glass. But something else was forming beneath it, something she had never expected. One night, the human opened a panel in the ceiling of the ship. Above them, the stars spilled across the sky like rivers of fire. He gestured for her to come closer. She stepped carefully, her child perched in her arms. Together, they looked out into the endless dark filled with light. That, the human said slowly, is my home, Earth. She followed his finger to a small dot in the distance. It looked no different from any other star. And yet, when he spoke, his voice carried longing. A longing she recognized, the longing for a place that once was, a place that might never return. Her chest ached. She thought of her own world, now in ruins. Maybe they were not so different after all. But even as the bond grew, fear lingered. Other humans sometimes came to the ship, traders, soldiers, strangers. Their eyes were not like his. They looked at her with suspicion, with disgust. Why keep her? One man sneered. She is nothing but a burden. The human's answer was simple, his voice firm. She stays. No argument followed. The others left, grumbling. The alien mother had hidden in the shadows, clutching her child. She had heard the words, she stays, not as property, not as cargo, simply as family. That night, when the child drifted to sleep, she sat across from the human again. For the first time, she allowed her voice to soften. My son, she said. Pointing to the child, he laughs because of you. The man's face shifted, almost into a smile. Then he is stronger than me. I have forgotten how to laugh. She looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. The scars on his face were not cruel. They were old wounds, proof of battles survived. Proof of a man who had seen loss perhaps as deep as hers. Her heart trembled. She had not come here for love. She had come to sell herself, to survive. And yet, something new was forming, slow and dangerous. Not chains, not fear. Something far harder to break. A bond. The alien mother had begun to believe in peace. It was not full trust, not yet, but she no longer looked at the human only with fear. When her child laughed, she no longer silenced him. When the man spoke, she sometimes answered. Slowly, painfully. Life was beginning to feel alive again. But peace is fragile, and peace never lasts. One evening, the ship landed on the edge of an abandoned colony to gather supplies. The air smelled of rust and smoke, the ruins still carrying the memory of war. The human walked ahead, scanning the empty streets with his weapon. The mother stayed close behind, holding her son's hand. She noticed eyes watching them from broken windows. Shadows moved quickly, vanishing before she could be sure. Her skin prickled with warning. The child tugged her hand. Mother. People. Yes, she whispered, pulling him close. Stay quiet. Suddenly, the silence broke. Figures leaped from the shadows, raiders, scarred and hungry, carrying crude weapons. Their leader sneered, pointing at her. There she is, the alien woman who escaped us. We will take her back, and the boy too. The mother's blood turned to ice. She knew these raiders. They were the ones who had destroyed her village. She had fled from them before. She thought she was free, but monsters always returned. The human stepped forward, placing himself between her and the raiders. His voice was calm but carried iron. You will not take them. The raiders laughed. She is ours. She sold herself once. She can be sold again. The alien mother trembled. Memories of chains, of screams, of endless hunger filled her mind. Her body wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. She could only hold her child and pray. The human raised his weapon. You'll have to go through me. The fight was sudden, brutal. The raiders rushed like wolves, but the human met them with fire and steel. Shots cracked, echoing through the ruins. One raider fell, then another. The others screamed, charging with knives. The mother pulled her child behind broken walls, shielding him. Her heart pounded with every sound of battle. She wanted to close her eyes, but she could not. She had to know. She had to see. The human fought like a storm. He moved with precision, his body a wall between danger and the ones he protected. Yet even storms can bleed. A blade cut across his arm. A strike slammed into his chest. He staggered but did not fall. "Stay down." He shouted back to her, his voice fierce, protective. The raider leader lunged for the mother, his hand reaching to drag her out. She screamed, but before the man could touch her, the human struck. With one final blow, the raider collapsed into the dust. Silence returned. The human stood in the middle of the ruins, chest rising and falling heavily. Blood dripped from his wounds, but his eyes searched only for her. The alien mother stepped out, her child still clinging to her. She stared at him, at the man who had taken wounds not for himself, but for them. Her throat tightened with words she could not say. He staggered, then dropped to one knee. The child broke free and ran to him. "Father," the boy cried. The words slipped out, innocent and true. The alien mother froze. The boy had never spoken that word before, but he spoke it now, not to his real father, long dead, but to the human who had stood and fought for him. The man looked at the child, and for the first time a real smile touched his scarred face. "I will always protect you." The mother's eyes filled with tears. She had expected chains. She had expected cruelty. But this human had given blood instead. He had chosen to fight, not for power, not for gain, but for them. That night, after the battle, she cleaned his wounds with trembling hands. He did not stop her. He only watched her in silence. When she was done, he whispered, almost too softly to hear, "You are not my slave. You are my family." Her heart stopped. Family. The word cut through every wall she had built. She wanted to speak, to answer, but no sound left her throat. Instead, she looked at her son, sleeping safely beside them, and then at the human dot. And for the first time, she began to wonder if she was no longer broken. Perhaps she was healing. The night after the battle was heavy with silence. The raiders were gone, their bodies left behind in the ruins, but the memory of their attack lingered. Inside the ship, the alien mother sat beside her child, watching him sleep peacefully. For the first time, she noticed his little chest rose and fell in calm rhythm. He was safe. Safe because of the human. The man sat across the room, arm bandaged, eyes closed. He looked exhausted but not broken. His scars seemed deeper now, his strength clearer. He had fought for them, bled for them, and yet he had not asked for thanks, not asked for loyalty. He simply sat there, silent. The mother's mind was a storm. She remembered her first words to him, "I am for sale." She had believed it then. She had believed her only worth was survival, even if it meant chains. But now things were different. The next morning, the human spoke words she had never expected to hear. "You are free." She froze. The words felt unreal. He placed a small device on the Tebla data card, sealed with his mark. "This clears your name. You are no one's property. If anyone claims you, show them this. You and your child can go wherever you choose." Her breath caught. Go. The word struck her like lightning. She had dreamed of freedom before, dreamed of escape. But dreams were always cruel. Now it was real. She stared at him, suspicion twisting inside her. Why do this? Why release me? He met her gaze, calm and steady. Because chains should never hold someone who deserves to walk free. Her chest tightened. This man, who had every chance to own her, every chance to command her. Now offered the one thing she had never expected: choice. But choice was heavier than chains. If she left, she could take her child far away, hide among survivors, live without fear of betrayal. No more risk of human cruelty, no more danger of false kindness. But if she stayed, she risked everything: her heart, her soul, her child's future. Because staying meant trusting. Staying meant believing this human would never turn against her. That night, she sat beside her sleeping child and whispered, "He gave us freedom. What should I do now?" The boy stirred, half dreaming, and murmured one word: "Father." Her throat tightened. The child had already chosen. Still, fear pressed against her heart. Freedom had been her dream, but freedom now felt like chains. Chains that pulled her away from the only place where her son had truly smiled. She rose and walked to where the human was repairing his weapon. He looked up. Waiting, she placed the data card back on the table. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "I do not want this." He frowned. "It is your right." "Yes," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "But my child needs more than rights. He needs a father." The silence that followed was thick, heavy with meaning. For a moment, she feared he would reject her words, tell her to leave anyway. But instead, the human set his weapon aside and stood. Slowly, carefully, he reached out, not to claim her, not to chain her, but to hold her trembling hand. "You choose to stay?" he asked. She nodded, tears falling. "Yes, not because I am owned, but because I am home." For the first time since her world had burned, the alien mother felt the weight of her grief lift. Not gone, not forgotten, but lighter. The child woke and ran to them, small arms wrapping around both. Mother, father, family. The word echoed in the ship, stronger than steel, brighter than any star. The mother held her son close, held the human's hand tighter, and whispered, "Then I choose you." And in that moment, the choice was no longer a burden. It was freedom itself. The alien mother had made her choice. She was no longer a slave. She was no longer broken. She stayed not because she had nowhere to go, but because she had found something she thought impossible. A home. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Life aboard the human ship began to feel like life itself. The child grew stronger, laughing more often, no longer haunted by hunger. The human taught him to read small symbols on glowing screens, to hold tools with steady hands. The mother watched them together, her son smiling, calling the man father. The man, once silent and cold, now allowing small smiles to form. She had never thought such a bond could exist across two species. Yet here it was simple, natural, alive. Still, the universe was not kind. Other humans whispered. Whenever they docked at stations, eyes followed her. Words hissed through the air. Alien, slave, mistake. Some sneered at the boy too, calling him half-blood even though he was not. Hatred saw no difference. The mother felt fear return, old. Fear that whispered, "They will never accept you. They will take him away. They will take everything." But the human stood firm. When men mocked, he stood tall, his hand steady on his weapon. When strangers questioned, he answered calmly, "They are mine, my family. Not a possession, not a purchase. A vow." One evening, while stars glittered outside the ship's window, the mother asked softly, "Why risk so much? Why stand against your own kind?" For us, he looked at her with eyes tired but unbroken. Because love is not about kind, not about blood. Love is a choice, and I chose you. Her chest tightened. The word love felt strange on her tongue, but warm in her heart. She had thought love died when her world burned, yet here it was again, stronger than fire. As days passed, she learned more about him. He had lost his own family long ago, his home destroyed in a war that was not his fault. That was why he could not watch her child starve. That was why he fought for them. He saw in them the chance to heal wounds both old and deep. Together, they became more than survivors. They became whole, but the galaxy was wide, and danger always waited. Raiders still hunted. Prejudice still followed. Their journey was never safe. Yet the mother realized something new. She was no longer afraid, because they were not facing the stars alone. One night, the child asked a question. His voice was small, curious. "Mother, Father, where's home?" The mother opened her mouth, but the words stuck. Her planet was gone. His Earth was far away. Home was nowhere. And everywhere, the human placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Home is not a place," he said. "Home is who you stand with." The boy smiled, resting between them. The mother's eyes filled with quiet tears. Yes, that was the truth. Home was not soil or sky or even blood. Home was the bond they had chosen as the ship drifted through endless darkness. The three of them stood together at the viewing glass. Stars burned beyond, infinite and cold. But inside, warmth filled the space. The mother held her child close. The human's arm rested around them both. And in the silence of the galaxy, she whispered words she never thought she would speak again. "We are family, and nothing will take that away." The stars seemed to shine brighter in answer. She remembered the first day when she had sold herself to feed her son. She remembered the fear, the shame, the despair. And then she looked at them now, her boy smiling, the man standing strong. Beside her, what began as survival had become something greater. What began as despair had become hope. What began as a cruel bargain had become love. Love that stretched beyond planets, beyond species, beyond stars, and in that moment the alien mother knew the truth. She had not been bought. She had been chosen, and she had chosen in return. The galaxy was still dangerous. Tomorrow might bring new battles, new threats, new trials. But whatever came, they would face it together. A mother, a child, a human, a family, and that was stronger than any enemy.